Hello, welcome to design and implementation of hotel management system part 7. We will continue with implementation of custom security in this lesson. This is the third part of implementation of custom security. So what we are going to do today is, first of all, we are going to start Radzen. We are going to start Radzen. I right click on Radzen, then we will select run as administrator. Then I'll say it. So now we'll double click on our application to open it. Now we have opened our application. Now let's go to layout. Now there are two layouts. We have login layout and we have main layout. Now what we are going to do is this. We are going to add some controls to main layout. Two controls, in fact. Now let's go to outline. When we go to outline, we see that main layout has a header, and this header has a header row, and the header row the header row comprises of a left column and a right column. Can you see me selecting the left column and right column? Now when you look at the left column, it is the one that contains the sidebar, which can be toggled, and the label that contains the name of our application. Now let's click on the right hand column. Right now the right hand column is empty. Now I'm going to do two things. I'll go to toolbox. I'll look for a label. I'll drag and drop that label in our right column. Then I'll go again, look for a button. Are you following? I'll drag and drop a button after you wait until it says drop after label. Are you following? Okay. So we have a label and we have a button. Let's select the label. Then we go to properties. We are going to give the label a name of LBL welcome. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Now let's go to the button too. Let's give the button a name. Let's give the button a name of BTN sign out. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Now let's assign a text to the button. The text we are going to assign to the button will be sign out. You can see what happened there. Now let's assign left and bottom margin to our button. So we select our button, we click on style. Are you following? Then we will go to margin. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Now let's change margin to 10 px, bottom margin to 10 pixels, left margin to 10 pixels as well. Are you following? Now, in C# lessons that we've done before, I've taught you how to declare variables. We are going to create two variables now. But the way we create variables in Radzen is slightly different from the way we do it in C#. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to outline. Now the layout is actually a page, kind of. Are you following? I'll select it at the top, then I'll go to events. Now I'm going to undo the load event for this layout. So when I click this place, that means I want to undo the load event. So now I'm going to declare two properties. How do I declare property? First of all, I'll click add event handler here. Then under select action type, I will choose set what? Property. So I want to declare a property. Now, the property, first property I want to declare is called logged in username. Are you following? So this property is going to hold the name of the user that is currently logged in. Right now, we don't know what the value is, so we'll set it to empty string. So now, you can see that when I did that, I gave it a name and assigned it a value. Initially, and immediately I gave it a value of empty string. Radzen was intelligent enough to know that the data type is string. Do you understand? Yes. When I click done, this is how it appears. Are you following? Yes. Yesterday you learned about Boolean variables, Boolean data type. You learned that Boolean data type can either be is true or false. So now we are going to create a Boolean property called welcome label is visible. Are you following? Okay. So how do we do that? We'll go back to that load event. We'll click add again, add event handler. We go to set property. We'll give our property a name. The name of the property will be welcome label is visible. Are you following? Now, the initial value will be false. Okay. Now that you can see now that Radzen was intelligent enough to know that it's a Boolean property that we are setting. So you click done. Are you following? Yes. Now, if you notice, for the button we have assigned text, but for the label we have not yet assigned text. Now let's assign text to this label. Okay. Let's click here. Look at what I did. What I did was I clicked that place that says that I bind this property. Okay. Then I'm going to go to expression. Are you following? So I'm going to set it to welcome plus. Remember I told you that for string plus is used is for concatenation. Welcome plus. Okay. Let's put empty string here. Are you following? The empty space rather. You know this empty space. I press the space bar. Are you following? Plus dollar. Why am I pressing dollar? I want to access one of the properties that I have created earlier. Now the property I want to access is logged in username. Are you following? For example, your name is Ademola. So if the if the property login username contains Ademola, they will see welcome plus Ademola. There was something we forgot to do. Let's put a comma. Are you following? Do you understand? So we click OK. Now let's run the project and see how the whole stuff will look like right now. So let's click run. Are you following? So we are running the project now. We have an error here. It says the name welcome. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this welcome in string. Okay. Do you understand? To show that it's a string, okay? Let's stop. Let's run it again. Are you following? Okay. Let's run. So we run the project. Okay. So we have the error again. Let's stop. Let's go back to our layout. Where is the control? Okay. This is the control. I think I know what the issue is. Let's go this way. Let's do it. Let's go this way. Let's do it this way. Hmm?
Okay.
Let's write the expression as dollar open square bracket. Hmm? Welcome. Hmm? Comma space. Are you following?
Yes.
Plus oh, let me do it here. It's not. Let me try it here. Hmm? Let me open the dollar. Are you following? Welcome. Hmm? Let's see how it looks like. Hopefully it works now. Hmm? So let's click run again. Hmm? So we have error again. So let's rewrite this. Hmm? So let's write welcome. Hmm?
Okay.
Comma. Are you following?
Yes.
Plus dollar logged in username. Isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Let's stop. Hmm? Let's run the app again. Hmm?
Okay.
Run. Hmm? So here we have our app. It has started. Let's call the genders page. Hmm?
Okay.
By altering the URL.
Okay.
Now you can see it says welcome, sign out. Now what we want to do, initially I want this welcome to be invisible. I want the sign out button to be invisible.
Okay.
Initially I want it to be invisible. So how are we going to achieve that? Are you following?
Okay.
Now let's stop the app. Our app has Radzen has stopped. So right click on Radzen again. Hmm? Click on run as administrator. Are you following? So we click on yes. So we double click on the app to open it. Now the app is open. We go back to the layout we are working on, which is main layout. Hmm? Now, when we last ran the layout, this label was visible. Said welcome, comma. It was visible, isn't it?
Okay.
It was visible because the visible property is currently checked, which means it is true. Checked means true.
Okay.
Not checked means false.
Okay.
Also, the sign out button too was also visible
Okay.
because the visible property is checkbox is checked, which means you can see it. Now, remember that earlier on, we declared two properties at the page level. Logged in username, which is empty string, which is initialized to empty string, and welcome label is visible, which is initialized to false. So now we are now going to bind these two controls. That's the label, the the visible property of these two controls. We are now going to bind it to this second property. Welcome label is visible. So how do we do it? Let's select the first label, the label. So now we come here, we click that data bind. So we are now going to say data bind visible to welcome label is visible. Right now, what's the current value of it? False, isn't it?
Okay.
You know, we initialize it to false. So when we run it now, you won't see it.
Okay.
Because I will explain. Now, this one too, we are going to data bind the visible property to welcome label is visible.
Okay.
Now, let's go back to the outline. What is the current value of welcome label is visible? False. So when we run now, we won't see these two.
Okay.
Because we have data bind the visible property to welcome label is visible. And what is inside welcome label is visible is false. Do you get it now? So let's run. You know, the first time we saw it because that checkbox was checked. But now we won't see it because we are binding it to welcome label is visible. And what is inside is false. Okay? Okay. It's loading now. So now let's call up the genders list page. You can see now, you can't see those controls again. Okay. Let's stop our app. The next thing that we are going to do is we are going to go to my applications. Now we are going to the app. We are now going to that place that says show application directory. Are you following? Now we are going to do some work on the server part of our project. You know, this is a WebAssembly project. It has a server part and it has a client part. So let's do some work on the server part. So let's right click on the server folder and then we'll say open with code. So now our server folder is opened.
Okay.
We are going to make some custom changes to this startup.cs that was generated by Radzen. So we will double click on startup.cs.
Okay.
So let's go and look for configure method in our app. This is configure method. Are you following?
Yes.
So after app.use routing, I'm going to add this line. App.use authentication.
Okay.
Put a semicolon. Are you following?
Yes.
How do I know that I'm putting it in configure method? If you look at the top, you can see public void configure. Thank you. Now the next thing we are going to do is we are going to add the default authentication scheme inside configure services method. So first of all, we need to locate where configure services method is. Are you following?
Yes.
Configure services method. This is configure method. Okay. Now this, can you see this public void configure services? So this configure services method. So I said we are going to add the default or the authentication scheme. Are you following?
Yes.
And we are going to add the authentication scheme. We shall be adding it after this line where the DB context is added.
Okay.
So this is where we are going to add the default authentication scheme. Okay? So we are going to add the following line. Are you following?
Yes.
So we say services.add authentication options.default scheme is cookie authentication default.authentication scheme. In other words, we are going to use cookie for our authentication.
Okay.
Cookie.
Okay.
Yes, that's what we are going to use. So file save. Okay. Now at this point, right click and say on the file and say copy path. Now go back to Radzen. Open your project. Now remember we did all this inside our server project. You know there were two folders. You saw server and client, and what we opened the Visual Studio Code is in server.
Okay.
So go to settings. Are you following?
Yes.
We are going to add that startup.cs to code generation ignore list.
Okay.
Why are we doing this? You know, we made some changes manually. If we don't add startup.cs to code generation ignore list, Radzen will overwrite the changes we did.
Okay.
And we don't want that to happen.
Okay.
Do you understand? So, yeah, let's do that. So, click save. It is this entry that we made here is what will make this thing that we've written here, and the other one we wrote.
Okay.
It is what will make them to stay.
Okay.
Otherwise, if we do not add it, next time we run Radzen, Radzen will overwrite.
Okay.
And we don't want to start adding them all over again.
Okay.
You understand? That's why we did what we did there. Now, there is still one more thing we are going to do. Okay, two more things before we even end the project. Are you following? First of end for today. Now we've added this, isn't it? Now let's go to my applications again. Are you following? Now let's close this. We are through with this. Are you following? Okay. So like I said, let's go to our application again. Show application directory. This time around, we don't want to open the server project.
Okay.
We want to open the client project.
Okay.
So you right click on client. You say open with code. Are you following?
Yes.
So here now the client project is opened. Now double click on hotel management app.client.cs approach. Now this file contains a list of all the packages. Are you following? That our client project is using.
Okay.
So now we are going to add a package reference. Are you following? For Microsoft.ASP.NET Core component.authorization.
Okay.
Are you following?
Yes.
Now we are now going to save the stuff. Are you following?
Yes.
Now let's go back to Radzen. So when next we run Radzen, this new package that we have added will also be downloaded to join all the other packages.
Okay.
Now, so let's go. Let's open our Radzen project. Now let's say run. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
So let's go. So our app has started again. So the next stuff we are going to do to end today's section
Okay.
is we are going to go back to Radzen. We are going to stop our app. We'll go to my applications again. We are going to show application directory. We are going to open the client project in Visual Studio Code again. So we'll right click and say open with code. Are you following?
Yes.
Okay, the last reference we added is still there, isn't it? But what we now want to do is we want to work on the program.cs file.
Okay.
Now, the program.cs file contains a main method. And then some services are configured inside the program.cs file. We are going to add two entries inside the main method, just after builder.rootComponent.add.
Okay.
We are going to add two lines. Are you following? These are the two lines that we are going to add. Builder.services.add options, builder.services.add authorization code. Are you following? After that, we'll save the file. We'll right click on the file to get the path, copy path. Now we'll go back to Radzen. We'll open the application in Radzen. We'll go to settings again. We are going to paste that path. You know, we just made some changes in program.cs.
Okay.
We don't want Radzen to overwrite it.
Okay.
Do you get it? So now what do? We are going to tell Radzen that we don't want you to overwrite client/program.cs.
Okay.
So we click what? Save. Are you following? Now that that is saved, the last stuff we are going to do for this session is to run our app again in Radzen. And running it will make our app to be built again.
Okay.
So our app has started again.
Okay.
So on that note, we'll stop today's lesson. We'll continue with the configuration of custom security in next lesson.
Okay.
Let's stop.